how to trick your brain to get out of the food cravings. And I'm going to use inner work and science. And I'm going to tell you about my own personal story a little bit and some stuff I've done with some people over the past 26 years. So hi, my name is Karla Adams. I have over 26 years experience in exercise science, sports nutrition. I've lived on clean eating my whole life and live on a high intensity weight training, and I teach other people how to do the same. And I have an entire system that can walk them through the process. I've been on the cover of tons of magazine covers, okay, just for over clean eating and exercise and educating the public on that. So I'm super excited to meet with you today and talk to you about how to kick all these cravings because we can get rid of them. That is the super cool thing. So I'm a big believer in the power of a positive mind. So I'm going to be talking about that in this video also. You're going to want to stay to the end. I'm going to be going through science, inner work, and a lot of pitfalls that keep people from doing the full conversion and just making it so easy to kick all these cravings. And it is a trick to the brain. It really, really is. And that is scientifical. Actually, scientifical is not a word. That is scientific. Okay. So the first thing I want to go over is the law of recognition. So there's a lot of natural laws in this world. And a good example of a natural law, this is 5 pounds of fat, right? And not huge. Look at how huge that fat is. It's like it's bigger than my head. If I had the muscle next to it, the muscle would probably be like this size. So I'll just use this. So natural laws, if I were to drop this, it's gonna fall, right? That's a natural law. Natural laws, they started happening before we knew how to write as people, before we knew how to create and develop all these big, huge, amazing societies. There was just natural laws, and it's kind of like a cause and effect. So our body has a lot of those natural laws, and then there's a lot of natural laws just in the world, and you might know some of them already. So one of the natural laws out there is the law of recognition. So it is just to recognize something. And the first part of being able to sort through an issue and understand an issue or a subject, so it doesn't necessarily even have to be an issue, but the first step in sorting through or understanding or going down a path to direct energy somewhere to create something, you first have to recognize it. You have to say, oh, this is something that exists. Right? Like I could say, I recognize that this exists, right? That's recognition. That's a law. That's a natural law. And there's a lot of these in the world. And, whenever, if you're actually on this video, if you clicked on it because you saw, oh, food cravings, I want to understand that. There was something that happened where you recognized something about this video or a piece of information, or there was some sort of a recognition that went on. Okay, so recognition has layers to it, and it can be one of our most powerful tools. Okay, and so just some really simple things. So you claim it, you see it, and you know or want it, right? So that's all recognizing something. That can happen. That's the basis of marketing, right? They have those 30-second commercials. And that tie in and trigger our energy and motion, our emotion to desire something. That's recognition. That's recognition of something, okay? You can also recognize things that aren't necessarily in truth also. But the first thing when you recognize something, that is the law of recognition. So that's a huge, huge important step in kicking food cravings and making this easy. So for some examples, I'll give some examples on how the law of recognition, and honestly, it is the most powerful way. It's a step, it's a trail, right? So some things that go unrecognized that keep people in food cravings, okay? Some things that go unrecognized. Triggers. Triggers are when our energy and emotion are attached to an idea or a situation, or just sometimes it can be a simple word, sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a situation, sometimes it's an idea. Okay, so and a trigger is like, I mean, a trigger can be also good, like exciting, like you're somebody you love is coming to see you, and all of a sudden you have an emotion. That's a trigger, right? You're, oh, I'm excited, I'm going to see you, right? Well, these triggers can also be negative, right, or neutral, right? There's kind of like a placement, and you're the person that kind of decides where it goes based off of what you want in your lane, right? So we all have different things we want and we desire to bring in our lane. Mm-hmm. So the law of recognition is the first step in anything changing. If you want anything in your life to change, relationships, money, food, anything, if you want anything, the law of recognition is the first step you have to take on anything. Okay, that gets us on the research path, that gets us on the knowledge path, and the better we are at the law of recognition and understanding it, the more we go out on that path when we're doing the research, we start being able to use the law of recognition all throughout that trail to sort through the information and say, oh, this applies to me or this does not apply to me. Okay, and just so you know, nowadays the new luxury is self-development. It's actually just being able to practice the habit of slowing down and sorting these things out. Most people don't even have that luxury. A lot of successful people, a lot of our professionals, they actually have so many tasks. And you probably know what I mean, because I hear this from people all the time. I hear, especially since the pandemic, it's almost like the world speeded up 200%, right? So being able to actually do this process, just being able to slow your mind down, is the new luxury. Mm-hmm. All I do for 8 hours a day is coach people on mastering clean eating and regular exercise and using science and math to create their own personal formula. So I'm literally in conversations with people 8 hours a day, and this is a very, very difficult thing because most people are driving tons of hours. It seems like the list that people have to accomplish are endless. Okay, so it's super, super important to realize that while trying to practice a new habit of law of recognition, or if you already have a really good habit of law of recognition, making that stronger. Okay, because the stronger we can make that law of recognition work, the quicker we get to solutions, the quicker we understand our lane, and the more we actually get into the zone that makes this easy. Okay, so some big things that are under recognized. Okay, these are the big things that are under recognized, and then I'm gonna talk about a little my own personal experience in my trail of recognizing these things and how they benefited my life and shifted my life as an exerciser and a clean eater. Okay, so triggers, right? And I just mentioned that one. They can be good or bad, or it can be just, it can be neutral. There's just triggers in there, right? Just being able to actually, when our emotion is triggered, just being able to say, oh, that was a trigger. Is that something I want or I don't? Okay, right? Not have the trigger happen and then the trigger takes you on a trail, because that's what's happening. There's a low recognition in our social norm for triggers. There's a low recognition, and it's even shunned on a little bit in our society. Like if somebody has a trigger, a lot of times the people in their environment really are just like, put that person down a lot when they probably have their own triggers themselves. So it's kind of like if this is just part of being human, it's like we want to not have the attitude of suppressing another person just for being human. So because you're human also. Mm-hmm. And the more we understand that we're all human, the more it actually builds us up our own self and being able to deal with our own triggers. So triggers, good and bad or neutral emotion triggers, okay? Messages, wrong messages. Mm-hmm. So wrong messages is a big one. And that's really the biggest emotional trigger that one is attached to is the emotion of normality. Mm-hmm. So these wrong messages can come from our childhood growing up. 80% of them statistically come from marketing, media, and our social norm. So a lot of times people refer back to the home environment. The home environment is a big producer of these, but what's even more powerful than the homes is actually what's going on out in our worlds. Like the homes have the ability to combat what's going in the world and separate somebody from a lot of the confusion that's going out there to build a structure in years 1 through 5 and 5 through 15. But it's really our entire world is going in a certain current. We really want to understand those things. Um, so wrong messages can come from marketing or media or just, some conversation, that we got attached to. And some very good examples of messages that are actually creating lots of issues within lifestyles. The confusion on how to understand food, okay? How to organize food and what's actually producing a solution, a real solution, okay? And what I consider real solutions for people with nutrition, it's a emotional position, okay? It's where people are at peace and it's easy to repeat a certain pattern with their food and their exercise. It's easy, they understand it, they can make it work, they can make it not work, but they're in control of their lane because they understand it. Kind of like somebody that understands financial planning or relationships or any of those kind of stuff. And they just have a balance with it, okay? I think relationships is a little bit harder because there's a lot of people that don't understand this balance. So a lot of times you can end up interacting with people that are going in and out of understanding this balance or not understanding this balance. So that's a little bit harder on that subject, but when you go to money or when you go to food or you go to things that don't have their own free will, that are just going, like money's just going to sit there and it just has the flow of money, right? Like nobody gets to make up the flow of money, they just get to master it and learn it, and they get to recognize each line item. Right? What happens if you don't recognize that you need to schedule for a crisis? What happens if you don't recognize that you want to be married or have a house, right? Well, the money's not going to be there. There's a lot of different things that happen that way with our health as well. But people aren't used to thinking about their health in that way. People will a lot of times take things and really understand them to the like a boat or a car or some physical things and understand those lanes to the point to where these things are optimizing really, really well. But then when it comes to recognizing the laws of their body, it's kind of like the blinders are up a little bit. Like they could actually be having precursors for health issues from the doctor. They could be having lots of intestinal stuff where they experience it every day. I just did a video on a flat tummy, and I was talking about dairy and different kinds of stuff. It's like people will live in a relationship with their body while their body is sitting there going like, I'm upset. There's something, they're talking to me, right? So that ties into the law of recognition, right? So I mentioned Dr. Bull. Dr. Bull is part of the Loma Linda Seventh-day Adventists, right? And I have his talk in here. I can email it to you. Let's see, I have it in one of these books, but I can email it to you. What Dr. Bull went on, right? And this is a very powerful thing to recognize right here. Like if you could give complete recognition to this and keep it on your line item, like you do your financial budget or other things that are important to you, these are things that will shift your health, right? Just some of these statistics right now. So one of the things that Dr. Bull went on, and unfortunately he has passed since now, but I was in his gut health talk during the pandemic, and I quoted him in a local magazine. But one of the things that Dr. Bull went on to is that every single disease in the world, every dis-ease compared to ease, so those are two categories, ease or dis-ease, right? Every dis-ease starts in our colon. Every single one that you can imagine, and every medical practice agrees on that. They all say this is where all the dis-eases start right here, right? So just applying the law of recognition, if we can really get as much recognition as possible to what the subjects in our gut, we have a higher likelihood of really getting on a track of solving those problems and creating a lifestyle, right? So some of the things that Dr. Bull went over, he said that all disease starts in the colon. He also said that this is our second brain, okay? And there's a lot of PhDs and doctors talking about that this is a second brain. So it's actually a brain. Right? When I was bringing up how to get a flat tummy, and we're talking about dairy or digestive issues, and recognizing that if we're having those issues, we want to take this stuff out. We want to recognize our body is talking to us, that our body actually is a second brain, and that's science. That's what the doctors are saying, that it's our second brain. That's where all dis-ease starts. So if we want to have ease and we want to have peace and we want to just have relaxation, we want to understand that and start separating it out, just like the car, right? If all the mechanics are saying, if you just put the oil in the car and you just do these things, you'll be able to use this car, and you're not going to have to spend money. You're not going to have to leave it at the car shop. You're not going to have all these issues, added issues, right? If you just do these things, then you're going to have a car, right? So this is very powerful stuff to recognize, right? And the other thing, okay, that Dr. Bull went into, and when he started talking about that, he immediately started to go into the changes we've had. Or I would say the introduction to the processed food era is what he went into. Okay, he started, and this is a huge thing to recognize, okay? And this is part of our history. This is part of human history. So there's not a single person that this does not apply to. I mean, they don't have to follow this path, right? God gave us all free wills. We don't have to focus on our body or health or anything. I mean, it's completely optional, right? But if you're watching this video, good chances there's something inside of you speaking, saying, I want this, I desire this, I desire this. And so if you have a vibration or something coming out of you that you desire this, maybe you want to recognize it. Maybe there's a reason that you have that. Maybe you didn't get up this morning and just decide, again, I don't want to have anything to do with different subjects on health or food cravings or different stuff, right? It was in your body. Your body's talking to you, okay? So when I talk about food on this channel too, when I talk about clean eating, I'm talking about the original design in clean eating. Before we started writing things on a piece of paper. Okay, I'm talking about the clean eating that follow natural laws. That before we actually became civilized and decided to do all these fun and exciting things, there was food on the earth, and we would just go eat it, and we didn't think about it. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things that Dr. Bull went on is when that started to change, and that was when the processed food era started, which was about 300 years ago. Okay, 300 years ago. And one of the major shifts in that was in 1885. 1885 was when the milling process to bread changed. Mm-hmm. So bread used to be protein-based. Mm-hmm. It used to be one ingredient, and it used to be protein-based. The bread nowadays is carbohydrate-based, and it has a super gluten in it that 90% of people cannot break down, and it starts to store in the body. Okay, and if something's storing in the body, that I don't see how that couldn't create get rid of any ease out of the body. I mean, if something's storing in there, that's probably the opposite of ease. That's probably why Dr. Bull was bringing it up, right? And he statistically went into all the starts of the changes, and every single one of them had two things in common. Okay, it was this Kellogg's cornflake was the next one, the bottomless soda, and I can send you this list if you want to see it. Was the next one, and then the government went out and paid companies to make more foods, and we've had lots more things added to that plate since then. But every single one of these had two things in common. They all had sugar present, which is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Okay, and most of them had the super gluten. Okay, when the super gluten and these. I'm going to just tell you right now, because my next thing I'm going to get into is the science and the chemistry with sugars and these super glutens. The law of recognition is one of the most powerful ways to get rid of these cravings, because you just have to recognize science. You just have to recognize what happens in your body. You just have to recognize what you're experiencing and what you don't like and what you like. Okay. And my recommendation would be to go on to clean up and take out all the processed food out of your diet. If you really want a strong recognition, take out all the food, take out all the processed food from your nutrition, and that will actually give you so much information to recognize. Mm-hmm. So, and that's science. Actually, you can use the science yourself with your own self. You don't have to be involved with anything, so you could just actually do a scientific process yourself. and just take it out. And if you see all the issues go away, and you recognize that, right? Then that's powerful. So, but what's happening a lot of times is people aren't able to recognize a lot of these things, even when they're in a state of losing fat and losing body fat. Okay, they're not able to recognize it, and that's not being able to recognize certain things and saying this is an important line item will actually have you come back right to the same cycle. There's a couple reasons why people lose weight and then it comes back. Okay, statistically right now, people are succeeding at losing weight, but they're failing at a lifestyle change. Okay, they're failing. I've given these statistics in every video, but we're succeeding at losing weight, but we're failing at a lifestyle change. And a lot of these things that people are using to lose weight, and they're having most of the time there's an event type mindset to it. The imbalances on them and the mindset, it's both the food and the mindset that contribute to that cycle coming back. Okay, there is a process to change. There's 100% a process to change. I've actually studied this for 26 years. So I have a mission-based company, and it's really just to help people clean up the foods. And so I have an entire system that it uses science and math, where I create custom formulas, and custom formulas that also include some processed food, because processed food, it's important not to black label anything, okay? But it really helps somebody understand their own balance and their science in a scientific mathematical process. If you need help with that, send me a message or something. I have even full classes, okay? And I do have some slots available right now. They do fill up, but I do have some slots available right now. But going through this process of actually cleaning up the foods and using the law of recognition is powerful, okay? It's super, super powerful, okay? Some things that block, this is a huge block for the law of recognition: pride and ego. Pride and ego, 100% block people from the law of recognition. Or the emotion of normality, where and the emotion of normality works when people just don't have time to think and sort through information, right? There's a lot of very intelligent, busy professionals that go down trails that it could end up leading to an injury or backlashing them back on another program. And a lot of the injuries actually backlash people, because as soon as somebody gets injured, the food usually goes out the door. Okay, so injury prevention, I'm just as passionate about injury prevention as I am lifestyle change. 100% that gets people back on food cravings. Oh my gosh, I would say injury is one of the number one things that can do that, okay? When people are in a fitness program, there's a connection that I can't fully explain it. I just watched it repetitiously. When people exercise, they tend to want. It's almost like there's an attractiveness to eat clean. When people get injured in the middle, and there's a 60 to 70% chance risk of injury the first 6 weeks anybody's in any type of a fitness program, okay? And then the rate of people getting injured in the first 6 months to a year is around 40%, maybe even close to 50, I don't know, it depends what type of fitness people use to actually go on their trail. But if somebody gets injured in that 6 months to a year while they're going through the process of change, the food goes out the door right away, and there's a very high likelihood of them not returning. If they can't sort out the injury, or they don't have the proper support, or their life is so full anyways, and it just kind of took a lot to turn the ship to incorporate this in. And now it's just too much information once the injury happens. And that's a good way to think about it, too much information. Okay, our brain can only absorb so much at any given time, okay? And that's where this law of recognition comes in, where we can actually start recognizing certain things about how we really work, how we really succeed, and how we really fail. And the less we're able to recognize, the more the rate of failure will increase, okay? So one of the questions I had for one of the last videos was, how do I catch these thoughts? Okay, I'd actually talked about the law of recognition in a past video. It's not perfect, because we're not perfect. We're humans, we're not computers. And that's one of the biggest gaps to sort through for everybody to sort through nowadays, the pressure to be a computer when we're not. And the difference, being able to recognize how a computer operates and works and how a human does. The more you can give recognition and understand how a human works, the more you will be more powerful, okay? If you keep wanting and switching in and incorporating different things where you expect yourself to be like a computer, that's going to send out a lot of negative energy in motion. That's going to lower your frequency, and it's going to lower your ideas and your problem solving skills, okay? The more we can be in truth with how things are really working, okay, the more powerful we are, the more our vibration is higher, and the more we can actually bring the things we want in our life into our life. And the more we can actually just take information in our head and say, yes, I believe in that, or no, I don't. And there's no other emotion. Energy in motion. Emotion is just a slang word for energy in motion, okay? Energy in motion is very scientific sounding. Emotion has the feeling of like, oh, something is done to me. We're actually powerful beings. Our emotions are our tools. That's a powerful thing to recognize. Okay, so sugar. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Okay, we don't get to change that at all whatsoever. It's just, that's how the science works. So I really like using that word because words shift our energy and motion. And when you just say, when you use the word sugar, it has a softer feel. When you say 8 times more addictive than cocaine, it actually has a stronger feel to it. So it's literally 8 times harder to get off of sugars and glutens than cocaine. Think about that one for a second. It is 8 times harder to break a cocaine habit than a sugar and a gluten habit. From a chemical standpoint, okay? From a chemical standpoint, if we were just basing it on the science of chemicals. So, and that's a huge, powerful thing to recognize. One of the reasons, there's lots of reasons habits can get passed down, but one of the reasons like alcoholism or different types of things can get passed down is from normality, right? You're bonding with the people you love, you want to be around these people, this is just something you enjoy together, right? Whereas chemically at some point, there's different stuff that comes in that science tells us about, right? If the human body, if it has too much of that chemical, the brain starts being worked where you think differently, right? Food doesn't do that. Food has other stuff, right? And the doctors are telling us about that. Like Dr. Bull, he's like, well, all dis-ease starts on the colon, right? All medical practices, that wasn't actually Dr. Bull, so he was just talking about all the medical practices. They're like, all dis-ease starts in our colon, right? So, really taking the time to understand these processed foods and the processed food era, right, is a key factor. So, and really just recognizing how is the sugar playing a role in my life? What is the reaction? What's happening? And recognizing it from a truthful standpoint, not from a sentence you heard from marketing or a friend. Like, you don't want to use somebody else's opinion or thoughts. You actually want to generate your own. And that's where slowing down comes in. A lot of times, and I 100% have been, I've totally seen my own self do this, and this is what made me go, oh, I need to pay attention to this a little bit more. It's very, very easy to just start repeating the things the people that you love say, or things that you hear on a commercial or out there, just because you like the idea, or you like talking about the idea, or somebody else is talking about the idea. So really sorting out if you really believe in the things that you're saying or are talking about. Like a lot of times people, I'm a big sayer, do not get your nutritional advice from a marketing campaign. That marketing campaigns are set out just to trigger your emotion. And so it could be a half truth that's in there. It could be something else, but I would not get your nutritional advice from a marketing campaign, 100%. So the big solutions are the strengths start coming in when we start cleaning up the foods. and we start recognizing that power, and we just start taking steps, and we start voting on a daily basis on that. And that's what starts shifting our chemistry, okay? If you want to get rid of food cravings, okay, this is the way that you get rid of food cravings. This is 100% how you get rid of food cravings, because the science says the cravings are there because you're eating it. That's what the science says. So just recognizing that one thing and putting that on a pedestal and saying, if I keep eating it, I'm going to crave it. If I keep eating it, I'm going to crave it. If I keep eating it, I'm going to crave it. Okay? If your brain's in a problem-solving mode, it'll stop eating it because it will not want to crave it. And I've done this with like thousands of people, okay? And this is where things start becoming easy when you wait, the waiting game. You have to wait till this chemical clears your own chemistry, okay? And just a little bit of my own personal story, just with sugars and how this plays a role, because it's never a perfect path. I used to be like, when I was growing up, I was addicted to cereal and breakfast cereals, pizzas, all that kind of stuff. These things, the comfort foods, these were designed by a chemist, okay? And they have they give the most euphoric feeling in the world, okay? The sugar, fat, processed carb combination gives the most euphoric feeling in the world, more than any illegal or legal drug, and even more than an orgasm. Yes. I know people like to argue with me on those, but that's the science, okay? That's why the food works. That's why the comforting works. And comfort eating actually has a role. And there's a way to do it that does not go down this process that I'm talking about today, okay? But for today, I'm just going to talk about how the comfort eating causes issues, but there is a way to do it, okay? Like I said, there's no black labeled foods. There's a way to use these chemistries for power, right? But that's the most euphoric feeling in the world. So that's a breakfast cereal, that's a pizza, that's a ho-ho. They really do give comfort and a euphoria, okay? And that actually has, and it's that experience is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So just really getting in recognition to that would be like, if you were to go meet your financial planner and your financial planner kept saying, well, if you keep doing these actions, you're not going to have enough for your vacation, okay? You're not going to have enough for that big house that you want. You're not going to have enough to do this expansion with your business, okay? So the financial planner keeps telling you, if we keep doing this behavior, we're not going to be able to do this later. You're not going to be able to enjoy this desire, okay? This want, this thing that you want that's coming from inside you. Well, food is the same way. 100% food is the same way. So it's like, but these cycles can be extremely powerful. And the reason why is they're 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Okay, and if people are fast and they don't have a lot of time, it's very easy that the chemistry has more control than the mind or whatever, right? So really, like really getting really real with the glutens and the sugars and how they are playing a role in your life. And looking at the science. So those are my first 2 inner work and scientific information for getting rid of the cravings, okay? And these are ones that get rid of it permanently, okay? Now, I also said bring in weights. Bringing in weights is one of the most powerful things you can do, okay? And this works on inner work as well as science, okay? One of the most powerful things we can do as humans is think, move, or eat, okay? Oh, actually, I was gonna go into my story first. Okay, let me go into my story, and then I'm gonna get into the power of the weight training. So in my own personal story, and it's gonna include weights, so this is a perfect time to give it. Like when I was growing up, and this is what actually got me into doing what I do with helping people clean up the food and understanding the weight training, okay? It kind of is a foundation in my company. I used to eat statistically. Okay, I didn't necessarily have a big body, but I definitely had big parts of my body that were abnormally big. Like my legs were extremely big compared to my waist, and so was my arms. At the time, I didn't know this, but now I do now. It was because of the foods I was eating. The way that I was eating, the lack of things from the earth, the nutrition from the earth, the one ingredient foods from the earth, and a high abundance of these processed foods was really shifting my hormones out of balance. Okay, and it was, and when you're, one of the side effects of your hormones being out of balance is you can actually start accumulating all this weight on your arms, and it looks different, right? It doesn't look in proportion to your body or on your legs. And, you know, I was young though, and I didn't understand that. And I used to have all these, my body like was just having all these issues. Like I kept going, like I was like, okay, I think dairy is creating an issue for me and I don't know why. And all that kind of stuff. So I was having all these body issues. And that was one of the things that led me into saying, okay, well, I need to read and figure out what's going on. And so I started reading a lot of books by naturopathic doctors. And in all these books, I just randomly, I actually had a job at a health food store. This is when I was like 17 years old. And this is what, and I've always done a lot of praying and meditating and just kind of like trying to live a spiritual life. And so I was doing that at this time, and I was reading about these doctors, and I was just like amazed. And I actually remember this like it was yesterday, because this was like a, I don't know, a spiritual connection, just a spiritual growth, like a point in time in your life that you just remember because something shifted and your eyes became more open. You're like, okay, this is the path I need to take. It was one of those kind of moments. So I was working at a health food store, a local one, and I was reading all these books by all these naturopathic doctors, and I was like, oh, they're talking about the solution to my problem, or actually what I'm doing to cause my own problem, right? I was reading this in a book. I was like, oh, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. Oh, that causes this, oh, this causes this. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm causing my own problem. Oh my gosh, a lot of other people are causing their own problems. I was like, I need to work with people on this. Like, you know, I need to go down this trail to understand this, you know. But when I first started understanding it, that's not when I first cleaned up the foods. That's not, okay? And there's a lot of stories that are this way. Just because you're exposed to the idea doesn't mean you can embody everything or absorb it all, okay? I definitely cleaned it up at that time period for, like it was way more cleaner than what I was eating before. I took out all the cereals. I started watching bread. I didn't eat bread as much. But at the time too, there wasn't as much information as there is now. Like a lot of these PhDs are just putting out so many amazing books that really just help solve a lot of problems for people. But when I first cleaned it up, you know, yes, I would rate my food. I probably, because I grew up on a lot of chicken, a lot of cereals, a lot of bread, and this is something that's unique about me. My mother, my addiction to sugar was so bad growing up, all throughout the years 1 through 5 and 5 through 15, and these are the most programmable developmental stages of a person's life, is 1 through 5 and 5 through 15. For the unconscious, super unconscious, just thought processes, for our emotions kind of aligning to those thoughts, and for our chemistry developing in our body, right? So our chemistry develops. The other PhDs I've mentioned several times was this PhD that talked about the developmental of the brain. And he said years 1 through 5 are the most programmable years, 5 through 15 are the next stage. So that's what really wires a lot of habits in. So that's another thing to recognize, okay? I'm not gonna go a lot into that in this video, but we get programs in there that just become normal, okay? And that has to do with the wrong messages I created earlier. So there's science behind that though, that people don't realize there's science behind all of this. It's all science, okay? Food cravings is science, that's chemistry. It's chemistry. Okay, so, but when I was growing up, literally, my mother used to have to put locks on the junk food cabinet because I would get up in the middle of the night and eat everything. Like she would have one little treat per bag. Like I have 3 brothers and sisters, and we would get 1 treat per bag for our school lunch. I literally was so addicted to the sugar when I was young, I would actually figure out how to break open a lock. I don't know how I did this. It's like the craziest thing in the world. I was actually taking the hinges off, but I mean, it's like I wanted that sugar. It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. I wanted that sugar. And I literally have all these ho-hos and all this stuff. She'd find me at 2 o'clock in the morning, like with ho-hos all over me. And it is funny. It's definitely a funny story. But the big story on that is that this is what's creating a lot of issues for people that later on turn into diseases or other things that they're not happy with in their life. Okay, so food cravings is big, right? That's why it's a subject on YouTube. It's an issue. So, but anyways, I was bad. I was super, super bad. And when I first started cleaning up my life and I went out there and I started, originally my goal is to be a naturopathic doctor and work with people as a doctor. In that process, I actually became a trainer and I started my own business to support that. But I realized that this business model was actually more powerful because I could work with people on exercise, cleaning up the foods, and a whole lifestyle transformation, which that's what my goal was especially when I was reading these books originally, I just thought, gosh, I want this problem solved for me, and then I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to sign up in life for, to help solve this problem with other people. Okay. And I really just didn't realize how big of a trail this was and how it's in everything. Okay. But food affects everybody and everything. So now, let me go through this. So when I first cleaned up my foods, it was not as clean as it is now at all, by any means. Okay. I actually went through different growth spurts, even as a health and fitness professional. So, and my goal in my own personal path, because I'm a product of what I teach. I teach the power of a positive mind. I teach self-development. I teach mastering your own lane. I teach about natural laws. I help, just getting in this position in your life where it's easy and you're at peace and you feel whole and energized as a person and you feel like you're the best you. Like that was my own focus with my own self. That's my own focus in this system that I've actually created for a lot of people. And I just spent $38,000 on an app too. So you can sign up for that. But I have a whole community. So if you're looking to get plugged into a community, I should have some slots left in my classes, but I also have some courses. So give me a call. But anyways, when I was going through this process, my own self as an expert, it was not always clean. It was not, especially when I was doing high amounts of training as an endurance athlete or other things. And I've talked about this in other videos, that sometimes your training program can be your problem. So one of my biggest problems, because I had a history, of when I was growing up, I loved all these cereals. I loved all that stuff. When I was an endurance athlete, it would actually increase the rate of me eating processed foods. And I would always burn it off. I had a great body fat cell. I would always burn it off, and everybody always thought I was really healthy, and everybody always looked up to me. But I knew the internal struggles that I was having eating these foods. Okay, I knew what was happening in my own lane, especially because I was studying a lot about the foods, and there was different things that I wanted in my life, and I wanted to understand so that if I'm working with anybody else, I can help them with that. Okay, and eating clean is an ecosystem. It really, really is when you go back to the stuff that the earth created and you mostly eat the stuff that the earth created. It's an ecosystem. And the most freedom and the most peace is in that ecosystem. So, and that's one of the biggest things I teach about. That's why I started this channel. That's why I have my whole system. It's to really, it's so people understand this ecosystem a lot more and can navigate through it and master more things at it. So, but in all people, even when we're doing different things, and that's why I'm a big promoter of telling people, like, there's a lot of programs out there that have you over exercising, And if you're in a position where you're like, okay, I had a time period where I was eating this stuff and it's 8 times more addictive than cocaine, okay? Chemically, that's a huge thing to recognize. I was struggling this for a time period. Maybe I need to spend a time period off of it to discover what that definition means. So I would want to bless so many people with the freedom that comes with living on mostly all the one ingredient foods from the earth and understanding what that means. It does. All dis-ease starts in the colon. There's so many things that become easy and so many more natural laws that you understand going through this path yourself. You never understand it from hearing somebody else, okay? You only understand it when you do it yourself, okay? And I've heard this time and time again from many of the people I've worked with. It's like Mary, let me see if I have her thing right here. Mary, she is a cancer survivor. So this is Mary. So she came in as a cancer survivor, right? And it was just to lose weight. She was in her 40s and 50s. She just came in to lose weight. And I've had a lot of women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s actually placing in competitions that just came in to lose weight. Because once they started cleaning up the food and doing the exercise, they're like, oh, I want to do some fun stuff with this. Okay, but Mary's story, the first 8 months I worked with her, she really didn't clean up the foods. And you can actually, there's a video testimony in the front of my YouTube. You can hear her talk about this. And then after 8 months, she's like, you know what, I hired the girl, I'm just gonna actually do what she suggested, right? So she finally cleans up the foods and her whole entire body changed, okay? Look at that fitness body. Look at those glutes and those thighs. So here's her before, right? And she was running marathons in this picture. So 30, 40 miles a week, okay? So you can't exercise off a bad diet, okay? And then bringing in the muscle really starts shifting the system, right? So in this photo, she's running 40 miles a week. Look at her size. Here, this is clean eating and weights, okay? And not for the competition companies, okay? So when I do fitness programs, competition programs, it's really for the body people want to create, not what's happening with the competition companies. The competition companies are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's kind of, it's a little bit different sciences than these ones. The exercise science and sport nutrition I go over in this channel is really about bodies that you live in, and it really has to do with optimization of the organs. So it has a completely different focus. Anyways, that's a whole nother video. And I'll do some videos. I'm going to be competing, and I'm going to be talking about those distribution changes with my own self during that. But Mary was just a powerful thing. So, but anyways, 8 months, till she cleaned up the food, and then finally she's like, you know what, I'm just going to clean it up. And then her whole body changed. Okay, that's a statement. That's the body communicating. That the body has a brain. The gut has a brain. Dr. Bull said the gut has a brain. He's like, oh my gosh, I got listened to, right? All of our guts have a brain. All of them. They all have a brain. But this is the thing that I hear from people time and time again. And I heard this from Mary, and this is why we're showing you those stories. People go, why did I wait? I can't believe I waited. I can't believe I waited to clean up the foods. So it's one of the most amazing prizes because it matches our system. So just a little bit on the original system that came before we could write words, before an alphabet, right? Those one ingredient foods, this is how it works. Our body, we are carbon-based. The foods from the earth are carbon-based. And so it's synergistic. And it's kind of like having a company with all your employees, and all the employees are just doing their job, and they know what to do, they know what to do, they know what to do, and they just do that, and they go really, really fast, just like a car, it just has gas, right? So we need the proteins, carbs, and fats from the earth. We need all 3 of them, and the 102 nutrients, okay? So I don't think there's studies of people binging on yams creating diseases. Think about that. You don't see stories of people overeating one ingredient foods from the earth creating issues. And a lot of the PhDs came back and said the cholesterol in eggs is really good for us. It helps balance out our hormones, okay? The salt from the bleached strip salt, like when you bleach a salt, that's bad for you. But the 102 nutrients that we need from the earth, those are minerals, those are salts. We need those, okay? So understanding this original formula can start solving problems right off the bat, okay? Because there's an innate design, okay? There's an innate design. We can choose other things, we can develop other things, we can bring other desires we want in there. That there's always a free will, but there's an innate design that we don't get to change. Just like money works in a certain way, we don't get to change that, okay? There's a lot of things we don't get to change. But I mean, we could change it on paper. And we could change it with our words. We can say it's changed. But there's just certain things, just like I can say this is gonna go up. It's gonna go up. It's gonna go up. So there's just certain natural laws that don't change, okay? Let's see, triggers, okay. Weight training. Let's get into weight training. From two aspects, weight training is one of the most amazing things to focus on, okay? If you're trying to get rid of food cravings, right? If you're trying to take something out of your life, you need something to replace it with. The brain can only think about one thing at any given time. Okay, I mentioned that PhD that was talking about the developmental stages of our body, of our brain. Years 1 through 5 are the most programmable years, and 5 through 15 are the next stages. So a lot of things in our super unconscious get ingrained in there. So say you grew up on a lot of processed food or sugar, it not only did it get ingrained in your unconscious that, you know, eating Doritos and pizza and all this stuff is normal, the emotion of normality, okay, and that's the most powerful emotion, is the emotion of normality. It's just normal. That's how we have generations of people pass on different issues. It's just normal, and that's how we bond, okay? There's that, the mental, emotional, and then there's the physical, that your body actually becomes addicted to these chemicals. And if we raised our kids on cocaine, we could see how they might have chemicals, that struggle with chemicals later. So there's two parts, the mental and the physical, to recognize on that. And I have some really great books and some really by PhDs that to help people with these things, okay? That break down the science. That's powerful when you start really getting into the science. So that's what starts happening in years 1 through 5 and 5 through 15. This doctor says, you know, these grooves in our brain, they're caused from thought, action, thought, action, thought, action. So if you went through those years, you know, thought, action, oh, this stuff is normal, and my chemistry is adapted to it, and my mind said it was normal, and my body had it, and then my mind said it was normal, and then my body had it. Through these foundational years, this gets ingrained in our super unconscious and how normal it really is. And we have 300 years of that, 300 years. So when grandma was out there loving on her babies, right? She was loving on her babies with something that she didn't know to, you know, a couple generations from now, it's going to have major issues within society. And a lot of this is introduced through love, right? Love and bonding, the people we love, okay? So, but whatever ideas or chemistries that get developed with those 10, they actually have the strongest pull on us, right? So how do we get rid of those, right? We do it with the same exact process, the same exact way it got in there. And marketing and media understands this. This is what their $4 million commercials do. They're paying $4 million to have you participate in this process for their product and their service. Consumerism, okay? So actually understanding this can actually take you out of consumerism more and save you money. So how we ingrain it new is new thought, action, thought, action, thought, action. Clean food, clean chemistry, clean food, clean chemistry, clean food, clean chemistry, clean food, boring, repetitious process. No more exciting events, right? With the weight loss. And that's what's failing people, having these emotional events. Everything has to lose. We're not gonna pay attention to the science. I see this. I do scientific programs, and I developed all these massive processes out in my system. And I have a whole thing, and there's a lot of confusing data out there, but it's also to the way people's minds are thinking. Everybody is addicted to this weight loss high, but that's not how the body scientifically works, okay? So a lot of times people get off of a program that works because they want to be part of these emotional experiences. Emotions are powerful, they drive everything, okay? So, but the best place we could be is boring. Is very boring, okay? Mary, the first 8 months, and this is very common. I've had people that I have people I've worked with over 10 years, okay, over 15 years. And so I see in all these trails of how hard it actually is to clean up the foods with beautiful people as well. Very beautiful people, extremely intelligent, beautiful people. This is no joke, okay? It's difficult to get into this process and really turn the ship over and make it easy. But once you do get there, it actually is super, super easy. I've gone through it myself, and I teach people through this process of really mastering the food in their own lane. But the cool thing about science is, especially if we can map out a custom, and you can see your own stats as opposed to somebody else's stats on the other side of the world that might be another gender and might be eating, I don't know what they might be eating. You can start mapping yourself to you, just like a budget, right? You know, it's boring, but once it's done, you just focus on that. And then you can go on your day and think about other stuff. Well, your food is the same way. And if you're not thinking about it that way, that's probably why you're not succeeding. Okay, there's probably too much emotion in there. And the emotion of normality is the most powerful. Normality, okay? The emotion of normality keeps wrong messages in there. Keeps you not solving a problem, okay? And the best position in consumerism is you not solving a problem, okay? So that kind of goes into the mental part. We need to have something, when we take out something, if we want to take out the cravings, we need to put something in there, okay? And so the weight training is one of the most powerful things to put in there, okay? Because not only is it going to give you a focus of something you can physically do that's going to take 2 to 3 hours per week, so it's actually going to take your time, right? So we can replace the time you were spending preparing or buying or bringing processed food in there, and we can spend that time on the weights, right? And we can have your mental energy spent on it. But then from a chemical standpoint too, it starts detoxing the body. It starts detoxing the body. It starts strengthening the muscles. And I've seen this time and time again. As soon as people start working out and start doing in their mind, getting the check mark next to fitness, then it's almost like they get supercharged. Oh, I need to eat clean too. I need to clean this up too. I want to see a response from this, right? Most of the time that happens. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people use the exercise so they can eat the processed stuff or the sugar stuff, okay? And that actually can end up being a huge cycle because, you know, especially if you're exercising, and I see this actually does keep you, it could actually still give you a great body fat cell, it could, but there's a lot of people it's not, okay? When I was had a column in the Loma Linda Low program, okay, and I was a competitive distance runner for over 10 years. That plaque on the wall, it says Riverside in Japanese. I stood next to the start man, next to Noguchi Mizuno, who won the 2008 Olympic Marathon. So I used to run a 7:30 minute mile for 13.1 miles. So my knowledge in exercise science and sports nutrition for performance, for being a performance doing, and appearance, looking a certain way, are very, very in-depth, okay? I've been working with my own self and thousands of people on these customized programs for over 26 years, okay? And when you're always staring at data and you're always working with people and listening to people, you can start to see where the common struggles are and the common things that are off, okay? And I had a whole system so I could show people where they're off from a scientific, mathematical standpoint. That's very, very powerful. So, but anyways, sorry, I get all excited about this stuff. I get excited about solving problems. I get excited about edifying you and making you feel good. But the weight training is one of the best things. You know, one of the most simplest things we can do as humans is think, move, or eat. We are meant to move. Okay, we are meant to move. There are a huge amount of programs in the marketing media. They're getting people not to move. Do you know, statistically, one of the number one things that people pass away from in their older years, it's a trail, and it starts with a lack of activity. It starts with a lack of activity, which then all of a sudden the muscles, the lean mass goes low, the bones become weak, and if there's any sort of an accident that happens, because that increases the rate of an accident, and the bones and the hips or anything break, that's one of the number one things that has people pass away in their older years. You know, I want to get more people active. I want to get people eating eating what enhances the body and do it. We're meant to move. We're meant to go out there and be active. When we take out activity, it knocks out our metabolic rate and our muscular system, right? Which can lead to putting on a lot of fat, or it can lead to injuries or other types of issues, you know? And when you're not exercising, a lot of times when you see people when they're older, if they're not an exerciser, what are they doing? They're eating sugar. They're usually eating tons of sugar. Okay, I know a lot of people in their like 80s and 90s that are like marathoners or bodybuilders. You know what they do when they exercise? They eat clean. They're like, I ain't touching that sugar. I'm not touching that sugar. I recognize what's going on with that sugar. Those are trails. Those are statistical trails that we can raise our hand for. Just like we can raise our hand to live in debt and be a peasant and not take care of different things or have this lower dimensional mindset. We can live in problems, you know what I mean? Or we can live in solutions and kind of align things in our lane, really understand our lane, okay? And the things that we just get to learn. And I really recommend learning about the foods. There's tons of PhDs putting out books. I have a whole system that can help you create the balance. I'll help you figure out how to balance it out. With math and science, it's super powerful. But these things are going to bring in what was I? Okay, back to the exercise. Okay, so the weights is going to help. We just want to move. The whole point of that is we want to move. Okay, and I do not recommend nutrition programs that are so low in the calories that they take out the movement. I've had a lot of people, especially since the pandemic, because I think this is being promoted a lot. There's a lot of 400 calorie plans. I think there's these new pills that are being recommended, and they want you to eat very low on the nutrition. Like, that's the thing that I see that's very, very common. Is there's a lot of these plans that the way that the nutrition is constructed, it's like it would be unhealthy to exercise on these plans. Okay, well, you're gonna lose weight fast on them, but you're gonna lose weight fast because you're knocking out your metabolic rate. Okay, what we want to do is do training. We want to do the training because then you're going to experience the balance on the clean foods. You're going to experience what the proteins, carbs, and fats from the earth are going to build in your system, rather than going on a deprivation, starving the body, and keeping different things like this is what's happening with these 400 calorie plans, okay? Or these if people turn fasting plans into lifestyles, or the low carb stuff, people are knocking out their metabolic rate. They're increasing the risk of injury, okay? Because an injury happens when your weakest link is pushed past its threshold. And that can happen from doing too much too quick, like you're over exercising, or you can be in a normal exercise program and be depleted in nutrients. You do not have the right nutrients. Your hair can fall out, other issues can happen, right? But a lot of these programs are so low calorie, people aren't even recommended to exercise, so they're just not. And so then they're just knocking out their metabolic rate, okay? And several people like they get addicted to this weight loss high, but that sets you up to be a non-exerciser. It sets you up to be a non-exerciser. We need proteins, carbs, and fats. Okay, if you start taking out these carbohydrates, you won't build muscle. You won't increase your metabolic rate. Okay, these muscles, they burn a lot of calories. I'm 110 pounds. I do no cardio. I do a high intensity weight training. I have several clients that I've taken down this same path for something similar. What we really want to do is develop out a system that burns calories for us. We don't want to take it out. You don't want to take it out. That increases the rate of you being part of that group of people in their elderly years that does not have exercise habits in there. And if you don't have exercise habits in there, you're going to probably coast back over to the sugar and the processed foods. Okay, and this is what I'm seeing in the trends. Whether somebody does a lot of the vegetarian plans that are promoted, they're promoted to take out meat, but you still eat processed foods. Okay, these deprivation diets, people go on them, but because you can't live on them, there's usually some sort of a backlash where a ton of the processed stuff comes in. Because people don't normally go binge on yams or one ingredient foods from the earth. They don't. there's usually not, or there's not like this huge, usually actually people are lumping these one ingredient foods in the same category as the processed carbohydrates, but chemically they're different, right? And that's a huge thing to actually recognize. From a chemical standpoint, these are two different things. The one ingredient stuff from the earth is going to enhance the body and add to it. This other one is going to have a tax that comes with it, and it's going to keep us craving it and wanting it, okay? So there's a lot of freedom. You know what makes my plan easy? I don't crave anything. I don't crave anything. And like when I go to my food, I just naturally think about these natural things. That's what makes it easy. I just have a simple exercise routine that I keep repeating. And then I get to enjoy results. That's what a system should be about. A program, any program, fitness and nutrition program, should be about getting you to a point where you're in a body that you like, that's the one in your mind, and it feels easy. And your nervous system is calm, and you in your mind you can see, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to repeat this. It's going to be able to stay in there. Okay, it fits my lifestyle. So, but weight training, it just goes with our own natural energies. Okay, because there's a connection in that. We're meant to move. So a little bit on. Another question somebody had is, how do I make it a game? Okay, so one of the things I mentioned in one of the old videos, and it's just like a trick, right? And so I thought this was a good one for this video, for inner work, a really good thing to do, because there's a lot of situations that are different. Everybody's life is different, okay? And you know, I've worked with people for 26 years, and so I separate everything out into the exercise science, the sports nutrition, and the character development. Okay, and the character development, it's just all different. People have different issues, they have different solutions. It's just a mixing pot. So, but one thing is you have to change you in all your environments. Okay, that's a huge part of the inner work, right? You know, I'm sure that the brain can associate cravings to people and environments. Like you're going to hang out with your family, or maybe you work in a hospital and they always have all this junk food, or maybe whatever environment. There's an environment. So environments are triggers, right? So there can be there's an association to the actual food that your brain will think about from a chemical standpoint, and then there's an association to the people or situation, right? So one of my examples that I used, how I used a trick for self-development to shift my own self out of some bad behavior, some behavior I didn't want to put energy in, it wasn't serving me anymore, was my family events, right? And this was, I mean, this is a long time ago, but this is when I was first going through the stages of really cleaning up my foods. And the thing I was trying to really point out earlier about my story is 100%, when I learned about clean eating, there was a huge difference between the way I ate then compared to before. But the way I eat now compared to probably the first 5 to 8 years in clean eating is way different. And it's a whole nother level of peace and freedom. Peace and freedom. So there are layers to clean eating. So, oh, I completely lost my thought, what I was going to say. Does any of you remember what I was going to say? It was on the inner work. Oh, it was on the weight. It was on the weight trainings. Okay. Oh, the question: how do I make it a game? Okay, so here's back to the thing. Sorry, I'm such a yapper. I could yap for like 7 hours straight on this stuff. But how to make it a game? This is a game that I did, and it got me off on a trail of just like doing this with other stuff. Okay, I just remember I had to go to a family event, right? And I was feeling stressed because I wanted to eat clean foods. I was in the beginning years of developing my own clean eating habits. And I felt all this stress because I knew at the family event, there was going to be a lot of, you know, entertainment food and all this stuff. There's alcohol too, but I've never been a drinker. That's another thing just about my story. I gave up drinking at a very young age. So I didn't have any sugar or anything. So this is just in the foods. Sugar, alcohol brings in a whole nother level of this. And so you really, because it's sugar, it's all sugar. But anyways, I would go, I would always feel stressed about my family events because there was a lot of stuff there. And, I liked eating the processed food too, but I didn't want to because I was trying to work on my own development. I was trying to secure my own lane and feel really, really good about my own habits. And I knew all this stuff was going to be there. And I knew if I was not eating this stuff that everybody was going to start talking or, there's conversations, and I'm sure if any of you have been in this type of a situation at work or at home, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And it's really just people telling me, oh, you're skinny, you can eat whatever you want, or, just comments like that. And anybody can actually eat anything they want, whether they're skinny or not. That's the truth. But I don't necessarily refer that to how I want to do my food habits. But I wanted to keep my family. I didn't want to avoid the family event. That was the thing. I didn't want to stop hanging out with my family just to eat clean. And that's what, there's a huge amount of people that will do that. They will throw the baby out with the bathwater. They'll say, I can't do all these things so that I can eat clean. Okay? And that might be okay a little bit, but you don't want to stay there. You 100% do not want to stay there. What's super important on a lifestyle change is to become who you are in all your current environments, to change you in all the environments. Okay, so I came up with this idea of a game. Okay, and I didn't exactly knew how this game was going to go, but the simplest rules I came up with is I was going to keep it fun. And I was going to try to just be excited. And anytime anybody brought up and started saying any of the things that made me feel uncomfortable, that would kind of trigger, remember I talked about triggers earlier, right? Being able to recognize a trigger. So I was able to recognize my trigger, and I just saying I didn't want to act on it, right? Because how we program the brain would be, I'm triggered and then I do the normal behavior of eat the food. I'm triggered and I don't feel comfortable around the people, so then I eat the food. Okay, that redefines the path. That keeps the program in there of thought, action, thought, action, thought, action of eating the food when I'm around these people, right? And the only reason why I was having a trigger is because my desire was different. I knew my lane was different than the environment I had been on. It had nothing to do with the people I loved, and I still wanted to enjoy the people I love. So that's what I was recognizing. I love these people, I want to be around these people, but I just don't want to eat like they do. And actually, I want to inspire them to eat the same way, because they're probably talking about this because they don't understand how to master the food. And a lot of people want to master the food that don't understand it. I think that's something that's inside of us, a lot of people, and you can see it come out because they talk about it, and maybe they can't talk about it the way that I do or other people. But that's something that if you're being triggered, that's information coming out of you, that you want to take the time to understand. So I wasn't perfect to start, but I just said, you know what? I'm probably not going to do this perfect to start, but every time I go hang out with them, I'm just going to get excited and talk about all the benefits and how I'm feeling good and what I like about my life, and from a threatening standpoint, because it's really, if somebody wants to eat clean or not eat clean, these are all decisions that each individual person gets to make at any given time, right? Like if you're not in a position to start doing a full cleanup, or you only can do 25%, then that's exactly actually where you should be. Your body gives you messages, okay? And it will tell you exactly where you should be. I do this with people all the time. Okay, I do a variety of different plans. Okay, and it's not black and white. Okay, and there is no black labeled foods. But anyways, my goal, no matter what it was, I just made it my goal to enjoy my family, keep building a relationship with them, but to not have it be just to not engage in the same patterns that would have me eating those foods. Okay, and at first it was a little bit uncomfortable, but as soon as I started getting into all these fun things and making it a game and fun for myself, then it changed. My vibration changed, my emotions changed. And what eventually ended up happening is all my family events, now everybody talks about clean foods. Now everybody talks about all these exciting things that are happening in their life with clean foods. And there's this huge emphasis on how propping up on a pedestal or bonding, I shouldn't say putting on a pedestal. Now the bonding is around clean eating, as opposed to just doing stuff with the food that really makes us not feel well, right? So that's an exciting thing to experience. So don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. And I'm going to be going, again, I have a competition coming up, so I'm going to be talking about my distribution change in these competitions. I have some podcasts coming out where I'm going to actually bring on people that are going through a transformation to talk about different subjects on cleaning up the foods and incorporating regular exercise in there. I hope you enjoyed today and have a beautiful Sunday. Bye.